gosh. Hello everybody. Hello everybody. Please maintain your applause until the very end. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to see everybody on this good morning. Hello to all my people of us. Hello. Hello. Let us be glad. Let us be great. Oh, was the singing a little too much? The theatrics a little too much? Oh, you want to just proceed with the interview? Oh, okay, we can do whatever you need. If you want to start the interview so bad, don't mind me. Can I have this seat right here? Can somebody please do something about this light? I was promised a very high quality production when my assistant agreed to this. This is not gonna cut it. Brighter? Brighter? Okay, now I need wider.
Hello, Madam Galinda Upland, Lady of Gillikin, and Sovereign of the North. It's nice to have you here on the channel. I know you're busy considering everything.
Galinda. I haven't heard that name in years.
Interesting, because according to my sources, your government ID still says Galinda.
My name's not Galinda. It's Glinda, remember? The good witch of the South. I don't go by Galinda anymore. No. My name's Glinda. Oz's favorite it girl, remember?
Well, of course. Back then you were roommates with a terrorist. Friends, even.
When I went by that name, it was a different time. I was a different person. I don't know where you got that information from, but that was a completely different time in Oz's history. That was not who I was, okay? Shiz was going through a diversity and equity situation. I had no choice but to be that girl's friend. I had to do what I had to do to survive.
Oh, sure. Tell me more about your college days.
If you have ever attended a PWI as a person of color, then the hellscape that Elphaba went through in the movie Wicked is something that you are way too accustomed to. From the immediate second that Elphaba put her dainty black shoes onto Shiz University's doorsteps, she became an immediate victim of bullying and bigotry. Sensing that she is being stared at and already being accustomed to the automatic vitriol towards her skin, Elphaba immediately begins a defense to defend herself. Elphaba begins shouting at her fellow students before they even speak to her. We might as well get this over with. No, I'm not seasick. Yes, I've always been green. No, I didn't eat grass as a child. This defensiveness and assumption that she will be insulted indicates the level of harassment Elphaba has had to endure her entire life. A common cause of social isolation is the experience of negative comments from others. People can often trace the beginning of their withdrawal from society to a single remark made about their appearance. Elphaba is sadly later proven right when these people who she has yet to acquaint herself with starts a relentless bullying campaign against her. After trying to defend her sister nessarose from a rather handy professor, Elphaba sadly makes herself the center of attention by accidentally activating her magical powers. This one action embarrasses her sister nessarose, who trust I have a whole section about, but also brings her to the attention of the head mistress, a lady called Madame Morrible. Not only does this one incident bring her to the attention of Madame Morrible, this one action causes her to gain the vitriol also of the head it girl of Shiz University, a girl called Galinda. Galinda, who I already described to you guys in Act 1 as the epitome of white femininity, has an immediate disdain for Elphaba. Not only is this girl of a lower social status than her, but if we're being so honest, Galinda does not think this girl is attractive. How dare this green-skinned lesser being steal the spotlight from her? All of the attention that Elphaba receives, may it be good or bad, is supposed to be Galinda's, especially the attention that is coming from Madame Morrible horrible. The love and adoration that is perceived by Galinda that is received by Elphaba is something that should have been hers just by her birthright alone, and Galinda is not having it. Through a set of unfortunate circumstances, sadly these two become roommates, which causes a whole cycle of bullying for my girl Elphaba. Galinda, still embodying white feminism with its very surface level egalitarianism, condescendingly offers Elphaba a little sliver, a corner even, of their room. When Elphaba rightfully stands up for herself, Galinda uses her privilege and weaponizes it by using her power over all of the Shiz University students to impose a sort of isolationist hellscape for my girl Elphaba. The isolation and hostility that Elphaba faces is shown both overtly and insidiously, as shown by the dance number and the lyrics for the song What Is This Feeling? And I'm just gonna read it to you guys because it blew me. I'm gonna insert the clip that I saw from I think the morning show, where it really showed how isolated this girl was, but the lyrics are, "Dear Galinda, you are just too good. How do you stand it? I don't think I could. She's a terror, she's a charter. We don't need to show a bias, but Galinda, you're a martyr. Galinda forced to resign with someone so disgusting." And I just find the lyrics to this song to be so insidious, especially as it was placed in the movie, because Galinda is passing herself off as this self-righteous, egalitarian woman who is literally under the burden of trying to tame this wild woman known as Elphaba. And she is just continually using her white feminism in order to pass off the ideation that Elphaba is such an awful person, when all Elphaba truly does is stand up for herself. The fact that they called Elphaba a tartar and called Galinda a martyr blew me. Like, this monster? They're comparing my green sis to this creature, and they're saying Galinda's a martyr? A martyr for what? These lyrics go to show you that ultimately Galinda is oppressing Elphaba. She isn't doing this on a classist basis at all, seeing as they're both from high upper echelon families, with Elphaba literally being the daughter of a governor. But literally Elphaba is being oppressed because her very existence threatens the status quo. This song especially frustrated me because, like I said, Elphaba didn't do anything wrong at all. All she did was stand up for herself. Ultimately, the issue is that Galinda is extremely jealous of Elphaba, and she hates to see that this green-skinned woman has something that she feels like is her birthright. And if you have been in a PWI space at all, this is a common feeling that a lot of us have to deal with. If you have a jealous white person who feels like you do not deserve the spot that you rightfully earned, they are going to make your life a living hell. That is exactly why we're having such a forceful rollout of anti-DEI initiatives. A lot of white people are actually very sick of the idea that in this year 2025 that black people can be at their same level, even if they had to work 10 times harder. I always think of that ye old additive that's like, there's nothing a white person with a penny hates to see more than a black person with a nickel. And I'm just going to include all of these different quotes where white people specifically sabotage black people because they do not want to see them be as successful as they are. But despite all of this continual oppression, my girl Elphaba still has to continually prove herself as talented, smart, and deserving of her place at Shiz University. And this is sadly an experience that many black girls have to deal with. So that leads me into my next question. We always talking about how hard it is as a black woman to just live our lives because we're always under a lot of scrutiny. But I specifically in Act 2 talk about the racialized implications of being black in a PWI. And I just wanted to ask, have you ever experienced something like that?
Yes, I used to work at a movie theater, and I was like the only black girl all the time. Like, movie theaters have like a high turnaround for like different employees because like you get paid dog shit pretty much. Sorry. So nobody wants to stick around, and you have to do like every single position. It would just be a cycle of different people, and there would be like maybe me and one other black girl, but I probably was the one that stayed the longest just because like I don't know, I just stayed there longer than I needed to. But there would just always be comments on my hair, people touching my hair all the time, being asked to do so much more just just because it's like, for me, I feel like I can't slack versus like anybody else. It's like, I'm just working at a movie theater, but it's like, I feel like I can't slack because it's going to be like harder on me than anybody else seeing it around me. Like, there was slackers around me, but it's like, I can't do that. And like, I would wear my natural hair, or like, you know, we were just talking about braids and stuff. It's like, I would call off one to go get my hair braided, come back, I had braids, and there's just all these conversations about my hair. Oh my gosh, how'd your hair grow this fast? And it's like, let's get a clue. If I would come in wearing my natural hair or like my afro, I think I've only done that like twice at that job, and it would just be like hands and hands all in my head, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, I definitely don't like people all in my personal space like this, but there's just like a lack of boundaries when people already don't see you as their equal. You feel like you're in a circus almost.
We definitely see that a lot in Wicked. That's why when they made Elphaba black, I'm like, this is a little story about us. One of the clips that I saved from the Wicked movie was Galinda practically looking at Elphaba when they're in class and saying, oh guys, look, the artichoke looks like she's getting steamed.
Dr. Dillman is not like every other professor. Maybe some of us are just different.
Well, it seems the artichoke is steamed.
That's
like,
levels
girl.
of microaggression is something that Black women face all the time.
All the time.
If it's not
like
in college,
uncalled for.
I'm telling you, if it's not in college, it's in these job institutions. And it's even worse as you level up. I get very anxious to wear my own natural hair out at work. I usually put it in plaits and then I put like a scrub cap. But like I told you, I'm getting my hair done literally tomorrow. And everyone's like, oh, Emma, I didn't know you had all this hair. Da, 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 da. Like, they're making it seem like, oh, I could never imagine you having all this hair. And I'm like,
like, and it's like,
couldn't you? You know,
exactly, like preconceived notions that they're putting on you. It's like, please don't give that to me. Keep that to yourself.
And that's just how it feels like to be a Black feminine presenting person in the workplace and or in college. It's always some type of victimization. Being in these spaces where especially you're the only Black person, is tough. That's why I always felt so bad for my girl Elphaba, because obviously she was the only green person at the whole of Shiz.
And the fact when she came to Shiz, she literally was minding her business, just bringing her sister to school. And it was like, and she had to address the situation before the situation could be addressed by other people. Like, yes, I'm green. Like, okay, just move along, continue. But it was like, she was literally just minding her business. Her father asked her to watch her sister, but uncalled for, nobody asked, Galinda would have comments about her, and there would just be microaggressions towards her because of her skin.
I said, girl, I'm so sorry you went through this. I really wish there was somebody who could get you.
And then I'm like, one, like, not that it even matters on a shallow level, but I was like, one, Elphaba was absolutely gorgeous. Like, the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, bruh, she looks so gorgeous in this movie. Like, this makeup that they did, like, on a realism. I was like, this makeup is absolutely gorgeous. And I'm like, I don't know why I feel like I'm not the type to do like a, you know, fantastical makeup, but watching that movie made me want to try. For sure.
It's not even that, because you know, when Black women are in these institutions and they be baddies, they still be getting, you know, racialized prejudice. So you could literally look your best, do your best, because she was eating, remember?
She was literally
so talented that Madame Morbo was like, I'm gonna take you as my apprentice, and she was still getting hated on. It doesn't matter how you look and how you present yourself, you are a victim of this type of prejudice. There's nothing you can really do. Elphaba's story, but specifically her story in the Shiz University arc, is a poignant reminder of what it is to be Black and isolated in a PWI. All of the isolation and all of the bullying that she faces is sadly a common experience for those who go to a PWI. The same way that Elphaba is consistently ridiculed for having green skin in these places and made to feel ashamed of having green skin, is the same way that many Black girls are bullied for their Afrocentric features. If it's not the dark skin, if it's not the 4C hair, if it's not the wide nose, all of these features are seen as alien to the status quo, the same way Elphaba's green skin is at Shiz University. Wicked covers a lot of very heavy themes. One of the themes that really resonated with me as a Black woman was Elphaba's experience in Shiz University. I feel like Her experience as Shiz was very representative of what it felt like to be a token, one of the few black faces in a white space. Do you have any experience similar to that at all, or was it just me in my suffering?
I feel like pretty much since I've been a kid, there's always those movies where it doesn't even need to be a black person, but just the only insert non-white person in the room. Those stories kind of do stick out, not even necessarily because like I'm going through it at that point in time, but everybody kind of recognizes that point when you walk into a McDonald's in the middle of rural Tennessee and you are the only black person in the room, and everyone just kind of looks at you like, oh wow, a black person, right? And there's levels to it, I feel, because sometimes you walk into a room and you can just tell that that person hasn't seen a black person in some time, so they see you and they're like, oh, hello, right? And then there's other times, obviously, where you'll walk into a room and know that people are like actively treating you different or looking at you a particular kind of way just because you're not white. So it's definitely something I've definitely related to, just whether it be at school or at work, right? And even like with university in particular, right? Like
Yes.
I go to an HBCU, but Georgia State was still like a pretty diverse school. I'm pretty sure they have some stat about graduating the most black people, like either in the state or in the city or in the country, somewhere along those lines. There's a lot of black people at Georgia State. Obviously wouldn't call it an HBCU, but having to find those pockets to where you don't feel like you're the only black person in a class or in a lecture hall, I think is important. And not a lot of people actually are able to, bridge that gap between like being able to navigate those things and still kind of have respites to where, you can find more than two people who can share your identity and your experiences. It's a difficult walk, to say the least.
But sadly, the bigotry and isolation that Elphaba faces at Shiz University is not something that she faces alone. They are awful at that place. The same thing about American colleges. Even those who are technically in a higher social status than her are still victims of bullying and bigotry at Shiz University. Her professor, Dr. Dillman, who I would argue in the landscape of a university ranks higher on the social scale, sadly becomes a victim of hate crimes due to his intersecting marginalizations. His safe space, which I would argue is his classroom, becomes the main scene of a hate crime. His classroom is riddled with graffiti that says that animals should be seen, not heard. And this entire scene was very reminiscent to how black people get treated in these institutions of higher learning. There is a lot of lynching iconography when a lot of these black students go into predominantly white spaces. The whole purpose of lynching iconography is a testing ground to let these black people feel that they are not safe in order to try to get them to leave. It's the same way the KKK used to do cross burnings, and it's very symbolic of the way this movie first started out, with a white woman igniting a crowd to cheer about a black woman being burned. Just like how Elphaba faces a lot of vitriol from her classmates via verbal threats and overall just verbal bullying, it's the same thing that Dr. Dillman is facing, but from adults, his co-workers. Nobody steps up to try to defend either Elphaba and or Dr. Dillman. And this is what I talk about when I say how isolating it feels like to go to a PWI, especially when you go to a PWI and you're one of the only black people. It's extremely isolating. Only Elphaba has the courage to stand up for Dr. Dillman, and due to the fact that she does not actually have any power at Shiz University, she is immediately struck down by the people who are supposed to care for her professors. In fact, the same lady that was being so touchy-feely with Nessarose in the beginning of the Shiz arc is the same lady that practically tells Elphaba to shut up. It is only Dr. Dillman and Elphaba who are each other's allies throughout this entire saga. And this situation is even more tragic when Dr. Dillman is disappeared and Elphaba never gets to see him again. This is especially tragic for her because due to the isolation she faces raised by having green skin. She was raised by animals with a capital A. So seeing another animal with a capital A being treated like this and then eventually disappeared is heartbreaking for her. It practically shows her what could be her future. Dr. Dilmon, even though he eventually becomes a victim of the fascism that is rising in Oz, he uses his platform as a teacher to consistently speak up for animal rights. It is just incredibly sad how people in these positions of so-called power are even to fall victim to these oppressive systems. The dichotomy between Elphaba's two proclaimed mentors, Dr. Dillamon and Madame Morrible, kind of mirror the experience of being a black person in a PWI, with those who seek to help you but eventually fall prey to the system, and those who seek to exploit you. But I really want to talk about the exploitation that my girl faces throughout the entire Shiz arc. While Dr. Dillamon is able to relate to Elphaba and talk about the experience of hatred that they both face, Madame Morrible, despite being Elphaba's one official self-proclaimed mentor, decides to be purposefully obtuse and decides to ignore all of the bigotry that Elphaba is facing. Dr. Dilmon was able to recognize that Elphaba was a victim of all of the bigotry as Shiz. But despite Madame Morrible literally mentoring this girl one-on-one, trying to cultivate her powers for the Wiz, she never directly steps in to tell the people of Shiz to not bully her self-proclaimed pupil. If this was a different movie and Elphaba hadn't been so strong against all of the hate crimes, bigotry, and relentless bullying that she faced, all without the help of her proclaimed mentor, who knows what would have happened to Elphaba? We would have had a completely different type of musical. We would have had a horror musical with how relentless these people were. Madame Morrible's exploitation of Elphaba, but specifically her magical prowess, is almost a one-to-one example of how these institutions exploit black bodies for their use. I have seen time and time again when it comes to black athletes, how these institutions will continually milk them for their sports capabilities, their brand recognition, and give nothing to these students. It is only through the advocacy and the consistency of these athletes trying to stand up for themselves that now we're seeing that these athletes can get paid. But if you literally look at how these black bodies have been used and abused by these higher institutions of learning for so long, you know that this is a common thing. Using these students for whatever prowess they have. In Elphaba's case, it was magical for these athletes. It may be their sports abilities, but exploiting these black bodies and not actually helping them by either not helping them when they're being hate crime or not giving them an education that they can use if worst comes to worst, their career in sports goes wrong, is something that these higher institutions of learning do. Sadly, the only way that Elphaba is able to escape the relentless cycling of bullying that she faces at Shiz University is to become a token. Just like many black people before her, but specifically black women, Elphaba sadly has to conform in order to get some type of acceptance and peace at Shiz University, which sadly means that Elphaba became a token.
Like, the more black people I talk to about feeling like a token practically in these predominantly white spaces, the more I feel like we've all lived the same life. That's why I felt so sad for my girl Elphaba as she was going through Shiz, because at least like you and like me, we were able to find some type of community in the madness, right? But my girl Elphaba was victimized from the moment that she entered Shiz. Literally no one wanted to be her friend, including her own sister Nessa. And I just felt so bad for her because we've experienced what it's like to be the only person of color in the room, but specifically black. There's a lot of anti-blackness in the world. So when you look around and you're literally the only person who's black, or in Elphaba's case green, you already know some nonsense is gonna happen to you. The fact that she went through all of that racialized violence at Shiz too, it was especially heartbreaking because I went to a PWI myself, and I went to a PWI in college. But one of my most traumatic experiences was when I moved from the city of Baltimore to like the outer suburbs, right? And it was my experience not being in a predominantly black place for the first time. I immediately became the victim of hate crimes. I had one of these girls who I practically told that I didn't want to be her friend. Like, she practically started a rumor like, oh, Ella's dad is gonna come and kill me because he's black. Hello?
Oh, wow.
Yes. That's why I always hearken the importance of now putting your children in these predominantly white spaces, because they're going to go through so much trauma when it isn't necessary. And what I wanted to ask, have you had a situation where you felt like othered, like how Elphaba was, because of your race, for then people to switch up on you and practically hail you as some type of sovereign? Has that happened to
No,
you at all?
definitely a few times. I just think about just all the times in general, whether it be like as a kid or, like high school all the way up into like college. I can just think of times where like I've definitely walked into a room and definitely had a bunch of "you're one of the good ones" kind of levied
Oh
at me.
man, I
And,
hate
you know,
that.
yeah, when you're not doing anything particularly extraordinary, right? Whether it's you getting good grades,
You just being you for real.
you just kind of being you. Sometimes people feel as though like it's something of a compliment to say that your blackness doesn't, intimidate them the way that like other people's blackness
Guys,
does.
I'm a super Negro.
Yeah,
Super Negro, like Superman. Yeah.
No, legit. It feels that way, and like it's weird because they don't even really realize like how kind of sounds to talk like that to people. Sometimes I've had classes where it's only a few black people around. You get those like weird stares, and you get those like whispers behind you sometimes in a lot of places. Growing up in general, I definitely remember having to deal with, sitting next to a kid who may or may not have a Confederate flag plastered on his back or something like that, right?
You do
Having
in the
things.
South. I be forgetting. That's intense.
Yeah. I think about microaggressions that have happened even from teachers.
I'm gonna tell you that one. That one is a macro.
Yeah, no, a lot of
That was
stuff
a
has
macro.
been macroaggression just from the amount of people who have had to explain racism to, which just again makes a story like Elphaba like not necessarily that unique, even though she's green, right? Marginalized people can clock marginalization,
Yeah.
whenever it shows up, right? No matter what race or what class or gender you are, I mean, I feel like a lot of people can relate to Elphaba.
This is further exemplified with Elphaba's entire relationship with Glinda. Glinda, I do have to say, goes through a very transformative character growth arc in the Shiz University parts of the movie, but it is eventually underplayed and deemed worthless when at the end of the movie, in the final act, she chooses the wizard and chooses to maintain her privileged lifestyle and supporting her friend, going to show us once again the dangers of white feminism. One of the most striking parts of Elphaba and Glinda's relationship, as shown in the Shiz University arc, is the fact that Glinda wasn't the one to initiate it. It was Elphaba. Even though I do love their relationship, it has always irked me that it was Elphaba from her lower social standing that had to be the one to initiate it. This reminds me a lot of when people are bullied, it's always the victim in the situation that is told to let bygones be bygones and to be a bigger person in order to stop whatever victimization is happening. And I just believe that is an awful take. And the relationship between Elphaba and Galinda exemplifies this. The person in the privileged position should be the one that steps down from their throne of privilege to help the marginalized person. But per usual, Elphaba has to be the one to step up and initiate this friendship. Most of the tension between Elphaba and Galinda is the fact that Galinda is extremely jealous of Elphaba for catching the attention of Madame Morrible. That is something that really wasn't the fault of Elphaba. She just happened to be there. She couldn't control that. So the tension that even caused this whole schism was on the part of Galinda, but Elphaba has to be the one that takes the first step. There is a lot of love triangles in this wicked movie. I'm gonna try to do my best to explain them to you. So we have Nessarose. Nessarose is the sister of Elphaba. This is her crush, Bach. Bach is this random guy from Munchkin Town. I to this day do not see why Nessarose is in love with him, but that's besides the point. Galinda tells Bach to go after Nessarose, someone who actually likes him, and this is why Elphaba eventually forgives Galinda. I am eventually going to talk about Nessarose and Elphaba's relationship in Act 3, but this one act literally causes Elphaba to forget all of the relentless bullying that she faced from Galinda, because at the end of the day, Elphaba loves her sister more than anything. So the fact that Nessarose was supposedly helped by Galinda, Elphaba is ready to forgive her for all her sins, including the bullying. Due to the fact that Elphaba feels like Galinda helped her sister, she talks to Madame Morrible and practically begs her to also accept Galinda as one of her pupils. But this relationship always rubbed me the wrong way because Elphaba continually has to pronate herself before Galinda in order for their relationship to work. It literally is like a Mean Girls type situation. It's actually quite sad when you think about it. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about when you look at that dance scene. So literally, Elphaba goes to the dance wearing the hats that
that Galinda gave her that was literally meant to mock her, because Galinda herself says that this is an ugly hand-me-down that my grandmother gave me. And Elphaba has to dance by herself. No one likes her. Even her sister Nessarose, I'm gonna talk about her, I promise. She get her own section. After hearing that Elphaba went out of her way to get Madame Morrible to even look at Galinda, Galinda looks at herself and is like, hey, this girl, even though I've been bullying her, decided to do this nice thing for me. Let me do this nice thing for her by dancing with her. And even as Galinda is heading towards Elphaba to practically give her a metaphorical cosign, her peers that were literally just bullying her with Galinda not even like 4 hours ago tell Galinda, hey, if you go dance with this girl, you could lose your reputation. But Galinda doesn't care. She's finally ready to step off her high horse to be with Elphaba in order for them to have an actual relationship. And this is what I'm talking about. It made me really sad that it was Elphaba who had to really set this thing off by humbling herself. But the fact that Galinda was able to see that she needs to lower her status in order to help the oppressed person who she was marginalizing was something that was extremely impactful. If their relationship would have stayed like that, I would have been like, City Girls, we're up by 1 million. But you watched the movie and so did I. Despite this apparent shift in their dynamics, it is evidence that Galinda's acceptance of Elphaba is very, very conditional. As long as you help me, I'm willing to help you. And that is such a bludgeoning undertone to their relationship. It actually makes me so sad. By aligning herself with Galinda, Elphaba is finally able to gain some type of social currency, but the caveat is that she has to change herself. If that isn't tokenism, I do not know what is. The pink bedroom scene further emphasizes the tokenization process that Elphaba goes through during the Shiz arc. Now that she has proven herself to be useful to Galinda, she is given a more comfortable experience in their pre-established social hierarchy. But like I said, tokenism comes with a cost. Elphaba must conform. She has to lose some parts of herself that made her so undesirable to begin with in order to fit into Galinda's perfect ideation of who and what she should be. This is really, really emphasized with this whole pink popular song setup. Even though this whole makeover scene might seem like it's cute and innocent, when you really think about what's happening, you're like, this is sick. Because it is. Elphaba, since the beginning of this movie, has struggled with her identity. Her green skin has othered her to the point that she was literally raised by wolves. Guys, imagine you're arguing with somebody and they tell you you're a disgusting green freak. And you're like, hey, you can't say that about me. And they rebuttal saying, at least my parents didn't leave me to be raised by animals. What are you gonna say? You can't say anything because her parents literally let her be raised by animals. What? And so this whole entire transformation scene, it looks cute, it looks innocent, but it's especially insidious because Galinda knows how insecure this girl is. Elphaba has to be remade in Galinda's image. The same way in creation myths God remakes humans in his image is the same way Elphaba has to be broken down and recreated in an image appeasing to Galinda. By the song's end, Galinda triumphantly announces that Elphaba is now pretty, that she will too now be popular, but very insidiously. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, this girl is sick. Galinda announces that she's gonna be popular, but never as popular as she is.
You'll be popular, just not quite as popular as me.
And I don't know if this is subtle foreshadowing or what, but I was like, girl, you're so lucky Elphaba don't have a mother that care about her, because if she did, she would tell her that you're the fakest in all of Oz. You're the fakest in all of Oz. The experience of being tokenized is harrowing. To be vilified and ostracized, and then all of a sudden be accepted with no inherent change in yourself is jarring. Tokenism operates on the very ideation that those who gave you the acceptance to begin with can just as easily snatch it away within a moment's grasp. And sadly, Elphaba will sadly, like many of us, realize what it truly means to be a token. So as she's going through university, finally being treated as a person, My girl is having a great time, finally being accepted, but ultimately going from looking like this to looking like this. But even though she has changed her physical appearance, fundamentally, she is still who she is. The person that will later be ostracized once again. And we really get to see that Elphaba hasn't fundamentally changed who she is as a person in the Lion Cub scene. So as they are in school and they are in the class with both Fiyero, Elphaba, and Galinda, a Lion Cub is brought and paraded to them. This is after Dr. Dillamond has been disappeared, and this scene was very reminiscent to me of human zoos. So I don't remember exactly when human zoos were banned, but there was a period in time where black children were kept in zoos for the paradement and entertainment of white people. And this scene with the Lion Club was very reminiscent of that to me, because like I keep saying, there is a difference between animals with a lowercase a and animals with an uppercase a that can speak and have sentience. And this Lion Cub is one of those animals with an upper A. Seeing that this child is literally being held in a cage and is being paraded for the entertainment of the Shiz University students deeply unsettles Elphaba. These animals with a capital A are her people after all. She was raised amongst them. Seeing that this child is being held in a cage, Elphaba knows that she cannot stand this. I mean, she really didn't do anything when Dr. Dillamond was disappeared. This is literally fate giving her an opportunity to save this cub. And I don't know how this happened. Somehow the entire class passes out except for her and Fiyero, and they abscond with the cub and set this cub free. In a deleted scene, we see Elphaba talk to Galinda after this whole scene happens, and Galinda confronts her about this whole situation. Elphaba honestly thinks that she is going to confront her by saying, hey, don't do that ish again, like don't be on like your free the people type stuff. But Galinda is actually very surprising here.
Elphie, the other day when everyone fell asleep, when I woke up and the lion cub was gone, so were you and Fiyero.
You just helped me rescue the cub.
But I would have helped you.
Liar!
If you needed someone. Could have picked me.
Liar!
I'm sorry. It was a mistake. I won't leave you behind again.
Which was very, very shocking to me. The whole Shiz arc, if we didn't have the final act, would have meant so much to me deeply. But I know how Galinda gets down. So following the situation of the Lion Cub incident, my girl is still having a great time at Shiz University. She's still under the tutelage of Madame Morrible, and her powers are growing exponentially. Due to all this hard work that she has been putting in to master her skills, eventually the wizard, the person that she has been idolizing since the beginning of the movie, finally sends her an invitation to come to the Emerald City. This is literally the epitome of success, the highest echelons that my girl could possibly have, because she has been wanting to see the wizard since the jump. The wizard, with all of his magical prowess, is literally so powerful that he can run the Emerald City. With all of this power that he is rumored to have, my girl Elphaba is literally praying that he can fix her greenness, her blackness. And in this moment, she is so excited as everybody sees this gigantic balloon come to her and give news that she is going to the Emerald City. Everybody cheered for her. These were the same people only a couple of months ago were bullying her. It's actually so jarring. And in this moment of her being celebrated, of her being exalted as the wizard's favorite, my girl can only think about her friend Galinda. Galinda is sad because Fiyero is low-key. Fiyero has an entanglement with Elphaba, if we're being so serious. My girl Galinda is confused why he is not caring for her as he was. Whole time it's so obvious to those with eyes that Fiyero is low-key in love with Elphaba. It's a mess. But as the selfless person that she is, Elphaba doesn't pursue this relationship with Fiyero really. And even in her moments of being exalted as the chosen one, she decides to take Galinda with her to the Emerald City. A moment that really should have been about her and her strengths and her accomplishments. She decides to include her best friend Galinda. And this moment would have been so cute if I didn't know that Elphaba is going to be betrayed by Galinda eventually. And so as they go to the Emerald City, all of the tokenism stuff that I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes is really exemplified in the Emerald City. A city that is literally literally green. Emerald even is literally a place where the color is celebrated, exalted, and Elphaba is just having a culture shock. Literally being born green, she was bullied for the entirety of her life, only for the city that literally everybody in Oz begs to visit one day. For that same city to exemplify the one thing that she has hated about herself is a jarring experience. That's why in the song, I forgot what the song is called, but it's like, I want to be in this hoi polloi. Excuse my inability to sing. I was just so happy for her because she finally got to really feel accepted at Shiz University. Yeah, you know, she eventually got accepted after submitting to Galinda's machinations. But in the Emerald City, she gets to feel actually loved and appreciated. This whole situation reminds me of the viral TikTok clip with that girl with the bob. That's like, why is being Japanese special on her and ugly on me? Because her entire life she was treated like being green was the worst thing possible, when literally everybody aspires to go to the Emerald City and experience wearing green. Like literally she should be getting worshipped as a goddess in this place, but no, she was bullied instead. After all, my girl Elphaba is still a token, so all of this joy and happiness that she feels is temporary, because under all of the happiness that is at the very top of the Emerald City, there is some insidious stuff being done. After Elphaba meets the wizard, she gets to really see what is the truth behind the mystique of the world of Oz, the world of the Emerald City. The wizard isn't actually powerful. The reason why Madame Morrible has been practically grooming Elphaba into being the wizard's grand vizier, as she says, is that the wizard does not have any power, and that it's only Elphaba who is truly powerful enough to open the grimoire, or whatever they call that special book. Madame Morrible was grooming Elphaba to be the wizard's grand vizier, not for her to finally be accepted as a person, as a contributing member to Oz, but to be used as a tool for the wizard's oppressive regime. Is actually kind of a mess. These people actually expect Elphaba to use her God-given extraordinary once in a generation magic to oppress the very people that helped raise her. That's what really gags me. That's what really gags me. My girl Elphaba isn't like Vi. She rocking with the people who she grew up with. She not gonna just flake just because she wants to be accepted, right? She literally looks at the wizard and Madame Morrible and says, you want me to use my powers to oppress animals with a capital A? Didn't you see I was best friends with Dr. Dillamon? She's looking at these people like, you were the one that did the graffiti. You were the one that was hate criming him. And she is shocked. She obviously is not standing for this. And Glinda, per usual, being the epitome of what? White feminism, tells her that she's being too loud, she's being too brash, and that not being able to fall in line with this oppressive regime makes her an awful bastionage of her cause. This is why I can't even take them seriously, because at the first chance to betray her, at the first chance to put her down, Glinda's did to put her down. It's a mess. Elphaba, like I've been saying, is the realist. She has the opportunity to literally be at the top of the hierarchy of the entirety of Oz, but she cannot give up her morals just to get that position. She looks at the wizard, Madame Morrible, even her proclaimed best friend Glinda at this point. I've been using the names interchangeably because she didn't really do much character-wise to earn that name distinction. She looks at them and says, if you guys have to make me the villain, that's fine by me. In the whole song Defying Gravity, she comes to the realization that being a token is not what her path is meant to be. If you have been looking on TikTok, you know how much black women have been really feeling that song. Y'all heard Keke Palmer when she hit that riff, like, Defying Gravity has gone triple platinum in this house. It literally is a song about accepting yourself for who you are, even if the entirety of the world hates you. Like the scene where she is struggling to get on her broom and is struggling to master that skill, and she's literally falling down to the bottom of the Emerald City, kind of showing her fall from grace a little bit, and she sees the younger version of herself making peace with who she is, and she's able to take that energy and fly to the sky. Wow. That scene was peak art. That scene changed lives. And it's just, All of the Shiz arc was so good. All of the oppression, all of the bullying, for her to finally accept herself for who she is. Wicked is such a good movie. Wicked is such a good movie. While Elphaba's story is a tale of self-actualization and making peace with who you are at the end of the day, there's another character I want to talk about whose story had a completely different trajectory. Guys, we're finally talking about nessarose.